I guess I should start by saying that I never thought I'd find myself in this situation. My name is Brian, and like most couples, my wife Jenna and I appeared to have a perfect life together. We had been married for 6 years, lived in a cozy house in the suburbs, and had a pretty good routine, so good that it felt like a well-oiled machine. But as it turns out, appearances can be deceiving. It was early spring when the first cracks in our relationship began to show. I remember the exact moment I started to feel uneasy. Jenna had been acting differently, more distant, less interested in our usual date nights and often distracted. I brushed it off at first, thinking maybe she was just stressed from work. She's a marketing executive, and you know how demanding those jobs can be. But looking back, I can see the signs now, subtle at first, but they were definitely there. One night she came home late, smelling of cheap perfume. I asked her about it, and she snapped back, saying she had a work dinner that ran late. It was strange because she had never been so secretive about work functions before. I let it slide then, but my gut started to churn. A few days later, I noticed her phone buzzing continuously with messages. When I asked her who it was, she just rolled her eyes and said it was just a group chat from work. I had always trusted Jenna, but the nagging feeling in my gut wouldn't leave me. I decided to dig a little deeper. I wasn't proud of it, but I started checking her phone when she wasn't around. I didn't find anything concrete at first, just usual texts with friends. But something about her secrecy, coupled with the late nights, made me increasingly suspicious. Then it happened. I came home one evening, and as I entered the house, I noticed the distinct sound of someone else's voice coming from the bedroom. My heart raced as I approached, trying to make sense of what I was hearing. I could hear her laughter, and it was a laugh I hadn't heard in a long time, the kind of laugh she reserved for moments when she was genuinely happy. It felt like a knife to the gut. I pushed the door open slowly, and there he was, Jake, my buddy from the gym, a guy I had trusted and confided in. They were sitting too close on the bed, enveloped in a moment that felt all too intimate. Jenna's face flushed with surprise, but what shocked me more was the look in her eyes. It wasn't fear, it was guilt mixed with defiance. "What the hell is going on here?" I shouted, anger boiling over. Jenna jumped up, her eyes wide with shock, while Jake scrambled to put his shirt on. "Brian, I can explain." She stammered, but the words felt hollow even as they left her mouth. Here I was, standing in the doorway, feeling like the ground had been pulled out from under me. My whole world, the life I had built with Jenna, crumbled in an instant. I confronted them both, demanding answers. Jenna tried to speak, to justify her actions, but her words felt like a series of rehearsed excuses. "It didn't mean anything. It's been a rough time for us. I thought we were growing apart." It felt like a wave of betrayal washed over me, and I barely registered Jake slipping out of the room. Jenna continued to talk, but I couldn't hear her. All I could focus on was the reality of her betrayal. The woman I thought I knew, the one I had committed my life to, had been lying to me. It was surreal, like I was watching a movie instead of living my own life. After the confrontation, a million thoughts raced through my mind. I was angry, heartbroken, confused. I had never felt so utterly betrayed. In that moment, it became clear. I had to decide what to do next. I couldn't just let this pass. I needed to confront the reality of our marriage and what it had become. As I stood in that room, a cocktail of emotions coursing through me, I knew this was just the beginning. I had to figure out what I wanted and what the future held for me. The days following the confrontation were a whirlwind of emotions. I felt like I was living in a haze, drifting through my daily routine, but everything felt off-kilter. Work became an escape, a place where I could temporarily distract myself from the chaos at home. My colleagues noticed my withdrawn demeanor, but I brushed off their concerns with vague excuses about having a lot on my plate. Meanwhile, Jenna tried to engage me in conversations, desperate to fix things, but I was in no mood to hear her explanations. She would come home and put on her best act, telling me how much she loved me and how sorry she was. The irony was that her apologies felt like salt in a wound that was still fresh and bleeding. I could see the hurt in her eyes, but the sorrow was mixed with a determination to keep her life intact, to preserve the image of a happy couple. It was during one of those forced conversations that Jenna dropped a bombshell. Jake was leaving town for a new job opportunity. The news hit me harder than I expected. It was almost comical how swiftly the universe seemed to be working in her favor. It's a fresh start for both of us, Jenna claimed, but all I could think about was how it felt like a closing chapter on the betrayal I was just beginning to process. One late evening, I received an unexpected package in the mail. I almost didn't open it, dismissing it as junk or some marketing ploy. But curiosity got the better of me. Inside was a single key accompanied by a note that simply read, "For your freedom." I stared at it in disbelief, feeling a mix of confusion and anger. Who the hell could have sent this? Part of me wondered if it was from Jake as a parting gift, a twisted way of offering me a way out of the mess Jenna and I were in. The key became a physical representation of my turmoil. It sparked something inside me, a sense of agency that I hadn't felt in days. Maybe this was my chance to take control of my life and not let Jenna's actions dictate my future. The more I thought about it, the more I felt that the key wasn't just a key but a symbol of my freedom from the lies and the betrayal. One night, after yet another insincere apology from Jenna, I finally snapped. I couldn't keep playing the victim. I had to take some action. "You know what?" I said, my voice steady but cold. "Jake is leaving town, and you think that's going to solve everything. You need to understand that this isn't just about him. It's about us. You've broken something that can't just be glued back together." Her face fell, and for the first time I saw a flicker of genuine fear. "Brian, please don't say that," she pleaded. "I want to fix this. I thought we could work through it." "Work through what?" I shot back. "Your deceit, the lies. You think it's that simple. I can't just pretend like everything is fine when there's this massive chasm between us." Her defenses crumbled, and for a moment she was just a woman, raw, vulnerable, and scared. But I couldn't allow myself to feel pity for her. I had to remember the hurt, the betrayal, the laughter I had overheard in our own bedroom. That night, instead of crawling into bed beside her, I took the key and drove aimlessly through town, contemplating what it meant. It signified a choice, a potential path forward. I wasn't ready to make any decisions right then, but I knew one thing. I couldn't continue to live in this constant state of emotional turmoil. I returned home, the key clutched tightly in my hand. Jenna was sleeping, and I quietly climbed into bed, trying to keep my thoughts at bay. In the darkness, I replayed the events of the last few weeks, looking for clarity, searching for a plan. I needed to take control of this situation, and I was determined to not let Jenna's choices dictate my feelings any longer. I didn't know what the future would hold, but I was ready to confront it head-on. What I did know was that I had to figure out my next steps, whether that meant confronting her again about what she had done, perhaps even pushing her away for good, or if I would try to salvage what was left of our marriage. It was time to think about my freedom, both figuratively and literally. The next few days were a blur. I spent my time juggling work and trying to figure out what my next steps would be. I was torn between wanting to confront Jenna again about her infidelity and needing to process everything on my own. The key sat on my desk, a constant reminder of my anger and hurt, but also of the freedom it represented. Finally, on a particularly quiet Saturday morning, I decided it was time to bring everything to ahead. I couldn't keep living in this limbo, pretending everything was fine while Jenna was tiptoeing around the truth. I knew I owed it to myself to have one final confrontation. This time, it would be on my terms. I found Jenna in the kitchen, sipping her coffee while scrolling through her phone. She looked up as I walked in, her expression shifting from casual to anxious as she sensed the tension hanging in the air. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart. "Jenna, we need to talk," I said flatly, trying to keep my voice steady. She set her phone down and nodded. "Okay, what's on your mind?" I pulled out the key from my pocket and placed it on the table between us. "This came in the mail a few days ago," I said, watching her face closely for any reaction. "I don't know who sent it, but it made me think about freedom. My freedom, our freedom." "What do you mean?" she asked, her brow furrowing in confusion. I leaned in closer, feeling the heat of the moment. "I mean I can't keep living like this. You Betrayed me, Jenna. I don't know if I can ever trust you again, not after everything. Her eyes widened slightly and she opened her mouth to say something, but I raised my hand to stop her. Let me finish. I need you to be honest with me. Why did you start seeing Jake? What were you looking for that you couldn't find with me? Tears filled her eyes as she struggled to answer. I wasn't looking for anything, Brian. It just happened. I didn't plan for it. I thought I was unhappy and Jake was there for me when you were. I shook my head in disbelief. You think that makes it okay? You turned to my friend instead of talking to me, instead of working on our problems. You let it go too far. I know I messed up. I thought I could handle it, but it got out of control, she cried, frustration spilling over. I didn't want to hurt you. I never wanted to hurt you. Then why didn't you just tell me? I pressed, my voice rising. Why didn't you come to me when things started to feel off? Instead, you chose to lie. You chose to cheat. You think sorry is going to fix anything. Jenna's voice dropped to a whisper. I just didn't want to lose you. I thought if I kept it a secret, I could fix things on my own. I thought I could make myself feel better without hurting you. I was furious. And how did that work out for you? Now you've lost me anyway. You've completely shattered our relationship, and for what? Some fleeting moment of happiness with Jake. She looked at me, searching for a glimmer of understanding, but all I felt was anger and disappointment. I'm not going to make excuses for what I did. I can't believe you would betray my trust like this. I can't believe how naive I was to think everything was fine while you were off having an affair. I know that I'm the one who messed everything up, she said, her voice trembling. But I want to make it right. I want to fight for us, for our marriage. I don't want to lose you. Hearing her plea, my heart softened just a bit, but I couldn't let her words sway me too easily. I had to be careful. I had to protect myself. You say that now, but what's stopping you from doing this again? The trust is gone, Jenna. You've broken something I don't know how to fix. There was silence between us, the weight of our conversation hanging in the air. I could see the desperation in her eyes, the way she was clinging to the hope of salvaging our marriage. But in that moment, I also realized something crucial. I needed to take a step back and decide what I truly wanted. Maybe it's time we take a break, I said slowly, feeling the weight of those words settle over both of us. Maybe I need some time to think about everything. I can't keep pretending like this is okay when it's not. What do you mean? She asked, her voice breaking. A break? Please don't do this, Brian. I can change. I will change. Just give me a chance. Thinking about that key, the symbol of my potential freedom, I replied, I need to figure out if I still want this. If I still want you. This break isn't about punishing you, it's about protecting myself. I need to know what my life could look like without the weight of your betrayal dragging me down. The tears rolled down her cheeks and I felt my heart ache at the sight, but I had to remain firm. I needed to take control of my life, no matter how painful it might be. This break could be the first step toward healing, or toward an entirely new beginning for me. As I left the kitchen, I felt a mixture of relief and uncertainty. I was terrified of what lay ahead, but I also felt a spark of hope, a chance to reclaim my life, to rediscover who I was without the shadow of Jenna's betrayal looming over me. It was time to focus on my own needs, my own healing, and to find out what freedom truly meant for me. The decision to take a break wasn't easy, but it felt necessary. After that tense conversation with Jenna, I spent the next few days in a state of solitude, reflecting on what had just happened. I moved into the guest room, craving space and silence to process everything. The house felt different, like a stranger's home, and I could feel the emptiness enveloping me. During those initial days apart, I tried to keep myself busy. I threw myself into work, working late hours and even picking up additional projects to keep my mind occupied. I found myself eating meals in silence and sleeping fitfully, the weight of my emotions pressing down on me like a heavy blanket. I felt numb, lost in a fog of confusion and sadness. I also avoided socializing, which was unlike me. Friends would text, asking if I wanted to grab a drink or watch a game, but I declined. I didn't want to explain my situation, didn't want to deal with their sympathetic looks or probing questions. Instead, I spent my evenings at home, playing video games, binge-watching shows, and scrolling through my phone, but nothing could distract me from the reality of my life. Every time I saw Jenna in passing, a mix of emotions washed over me. She would look at me with those pleading eyes as if she was hoping to convince me that things could go back to normal. But I knew better. I had seen the cracks in our relationship and I couldn't ignore them any longer. I had to confront the reality of what had happened, and my emotions swung from anger to sorrow, from bitterness to longing. One evening, as I sat on the couch in the guest room, I picked up my phone and stared at the key. I had been turning it over in my mind, its significance, the freedom it represented. I decided to take a walk to clear my head. The weather was mild, and I found myself wandering through the neighborhood, the streets dimly lit by street lamps. As I walked, I thought about my life before the affair, about the dreams Jenna and I had shared, the plans for a family, the places we wanted to visit, the life we wanted to build together. Somehow, those dreams felt tainted now, overshadowed by the betrayal. Would I ever be able to look back at our memories without feeling a rush of anger or sadness? My mind drifted to the idea of what freedom meant. Was it simply being without Jenna, or was it something deeper? The more I considered it, the more I realized that freedom wasn't just about leaving her. It was about unshackling myself from the pain of the past and embracing the future. I could choose to move forward, whether that meant rebuilding my life with Jenna or stepping firmly away from her. After about an hour of walking, I returned home, feeling slightly lighter. I had made a decision. It was time to talk to Jenna again. I needed to face her and see if there was any hope for our marriage or if it was time to let go completely. The next day, I asked Jenna to sit down with me in the living room. She looked nervous, her fingers twisting together as she awaited the conversation. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was about to unfold. "Jenna, I've been doing a lot of thinking," I began, watching her closely for her reaction. She nodded, her eyes searching mine. "Okay, I've been thinking too. I just want you to know how committed I am to making things right." I appreciated her eagerness to fix things, but I had to be clear about where I stood. "I want to know if you understand why I needed this break. I needed to step away from the hurt and try to see things clearly." "I understand," she said softly. "I hate what I did. I never wanted to hurt you. I was weak and I let my insecurities drive me to make terrible choices. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to rebuild your trust." Taking a deep breath, I responded, "The truth is, I don't know if I can trust you again. It's going to take time. It's going to take effort on both our parts. But I need to hear you say that you want this too, that you truly want to make things right, not just for me but for yourself." "I want that," she said, her voice steady. "I want us back, Brian. I want to fix what's broken. I promise to be open and honest with you from now on." I watched her for a moment, trying to gauge her sincerity. "I need to know what you're willing to do to prove that. This isn't just about saying the right things, it's about making tangible changes." "I'm willing to go to counseling," she said quickly. "I'll do individual sessions and we can do couples therapy together. I'll do whatever it takes to show you that I can change." I felt a flicker of hope, but I knew I had to be cautious. Counseling is a good start, but it's not a magic fix. We need to be patient with each other. There will be days when it's really difficult, and I need you to be prepared for that. I can't carry the burden of your guilt. "I understand," she said, tears glistening in her eyes. "I'm ready to face the consequences of my actions. I just don't want to lose you." As we continued to talk, I realized that this wasn't going to be easy, but I was willing to try. I had to guard my heart while also giving us the chance to heal. If Jenna truly wanted to change, then maybe we could find our way back to each other. We made a plan to start counseling together, and I felt a renewed sense of purpose. It wouldn't be a quick fix, and I knew there would be days when the memories of the past threatened to drag me down. But I was ready to confront the hard truths, to fight for my happiness, and to reclaim my freedom, whether that meant rebuilding our marriage or forging a new path entirely. The key wasn't just a symbol of potential freedom. It was also a reminder that I had a choice, and I was determined to make the right one for me. The weeks that followed were a roller coaster of emotions. Jenna and I started attending counseling sessions together, and while it felt daunting, I also found it oddly refreshing to confront our issues in a structured environment. The therapist, a kind woman named Dr. Lewis, encouraged us to communicate openly and honestly, which was something we desperately needed. In our first session, Jenna broke down, her tears flowing freely as she poured out her guilt and regret. "I took you for granted," she admitted, her voice choked with emotion. "I thought I was unhappy, but I didn't realize how much I had until I almost lost it all." Watching her, I felt a mixture of compassion and skepticism. I wanted to believe she could change, but a part of me still wrestled with the betrayal. I listened carefully as she spoke, reminding myself that healing takes time. I had to keep an open mind, but I also felt the need to protect my heart from getting crushed again. As sessions continued, we learned to express our feelings more constructively. I shared my anger and confusion, while Jenna talked about her feelings of inadequacy and why she had sought validation from someone else. It was illuminating to hear her perspective, but it didn't erase the pain. Each session was a step forward, but there were days when I felt like we were taking 2 steps back. One evening, after a particularly intense session, Jenna suggested we celebrate the small progress we were making. "Maybe we can go out for dinner," she proposed, her eyes hopeful. "A fresh start, just the two of us." I hesitated, unsure if I was ready to leap back into the dating scene with her, but I could see the sincerity in her eyes and realized that part of healing meant making space for joy amid the chaos. "Okay, let's do it," I agreed, surprising myself with my willingness to give it a shot. We went to our favorite restaurant, the one where we had celebrated anniversaries and milestones. As we sat across from each other, I felt a mixture of nostalgia and uncertainty. The atmosphere was filled with laughter and chatter, but it felt surreal to be there with Jenna after everything that had happened. Over dinner, we talked about lighter topics, our favorite movies, our plans for the future, and what we missed about each other. I found myself laughing, and for a moment, it felt like we were reconnecting. But then, the weight of the past crept back in, and I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. At one point, Jenna reached across the table and took my hand, looking me directly in the eyes. "I know this is going to take time, Brian, but I want you to know that I'm committed to making things right. I can't change the past, but I want to build a future with you." I squeezed her hand, feeling a flicker of warmth in my chest. "I appreciate that, Jenna, I really do, but it's going to take more than words. I need to see real change." "I'll show you," she promised, her voice steady. "I'll work on myself and I'll make sure you see that I mean it." Just then, the waiter arrived with our desserts, interrupting the moment. As we enjoyed the sweet treats, I felt a glimmer of hope amidst my lingering doubts. Maybe, just maybe, we could find our way back to each other. However, the reality of our situation hit me again later that night. As we walked back to the car, I caught a glimpse of Jake across the street, chatting with a group of friends. Panic flared in my chest. I hadn't seen him since he left town, and the sight of him brought back all the hurt. Jenna noticed my sudden stillness and followed my gaze. "Do you want to say hi?" she asked, her voice hesitant. "No," I replied, my tone sharper than I intended. "I don't want to see him, not now." Jenna stepped closer, her presence a comfort. "I know it's hard, but we can handle this together." I appreciated her support, but the sight of Jake left me feeling raw. I turned away, focusing on the ground as we continued walking. I just can't shake the memories. It feels like there are ghosts lingering in the background, reminders of what happened. Later that night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. I wanted our relationship to heal, but trust was a fragile thing. How could I ever fully forgive her when the shadow of Jake loomed large? I had to confront this directly. The next day, I brought it up in therapy. "I'm struggling with the idea of moving forward when I keep thinking about Jake. I need to know that I'm not constantly going to be reminded of what happened." Dr. Lewis nodded, encouraging me to articulate my feelings. "It's natural to feel that way, Brian. Healing is not linear, and it's okay to have moments of doubt. The important thing is to communicate those feelings both to Jenna and to yourself." After our session, I turned to Jenna. "We need to talk about Jake. I can't keep pretending like he doesn't exist in this equation. I need to know what you want moving forward." She took a deep breath, her expression serious. "I want you. I chose you, and I regret every moment I spent with him. I won't let him come between us again. But I understand if you need more time to process." "I don't want to keep feeling like this," I admitted. "I need to know that you're committed to this, that you're not still entangled in whatever you had with him." "I promise you I'm done with him," she said, her voice firm. I'm choosing you, Brian, every day. Hearing those words brought a sense of relief, but I knew it wouldn't be an easy road ahead. Trust would take time to rebuild, and while I wanted to believe her, I also knew that actions spoke louder than words. As I settled into the idea of our renewed relationship, I realized I had to let go of the past to embrace whatever future we could build together. It wouldn't be easy, but maybe, just maybe, we had a chance to reclaim what we had lost. I could feel the threads of hope weaving back into our lives, but I had to remain vigilant, ensuring that our journey forward was rooted in honesty, commitment, and mutual respect. As the weeks went by, Jenna and I began to navigate the treacherous waters of rebuilding our relationship. Our counseling sessions with Dr. Lewis became a regular part of our routine, and while they were often emotionally charged, they provided a safe space to explore our feelings. Each session was like peeling back layers of an onion, revealing more about ourselves and each other in the process. Jenna was committed. I could see it in her actions. She started reading self-help books, attending workshops on communication, and even joined a support group for people struggling with infidelity. I admired her determination to change, but I still had my reservations. The memories of the betrayal lingered like shadows, creeping in during quiet moments when I least expected it. One evening, after a counseling session, we sat on the couch and shared a bottle of wine. It was a simple moment, but it felt significant. I watched her as she laughed at something I said, her eyes sparkling. It reminded me of the early days of our relationship when everything felt light and carefree. As we reminisced, I felt the walls around my heart start to crumble. Maybe we could find our way back to that place, but it would take time. However, the road to recovery is never straightforward. There were days when I felt overwhelmed by the weight of our past. I would catch myself analyzing every interaction, every word exchanged, wondering if I could trust Jenna completely. Those moments of doubt would lead to arguments, and I found myself grappling with the old feelings of anger and betrayal. One afternoon, out of the blue, I received a text from Jake. It was a simple, innocuous message. "Hey, hope you're doing well." My heart raced, a mix of anger and anxiety flooding through me. I didn't want to engage with him, but I also didn't want to bury my feelings. I showed the message to Jenna, needing to gauge her reaction. She went pale, her eyes widening as she read the text. "You have to respond, Brian. You can't let him think he can just waltz back into our lives." "I don't want to respond," I shot back, clenching my fists. "I shouldn't have to. I'm not the one who cheated. I'm trying to move forward, and he's part of the past I want to leave behind." "Then let's block him," Jenna suggested firmly. "We need to cut ties with anyone or anything that makes this harder for us. You deserve to feel secure in our relationship, and I want to support you in that." After discussing it further, I decided to block Jake's number. It felt liberating, like severing a toxic link that had been dragging me down. I realized that choosing to protect myself and our relationship was a significant step forward. Each small victory gave me more confidence, reinforcing the idea that I could reclaim my life despite the challenges we faced. As the weeks turned into months, I could see real change in Jenna. She was more open about her feelings and actively worked to show me her commitment. We started to create new memories together, hiking on weekends, cooking dinner together, even planning a small getaway. Each moment of laughter and connection felt like a stitch in the fabric of our renewed relationship. However, I still had my moments of doubt. One evening, while we were curled up on the couch watching a movie, Jenna turned to me and said, "I want you to know that I'm grateful for this second chance. I know I hurt you, but I'm trying to be the partner you deserve." Her sincerity touched me, but a knot formed in my stomach. "I appreciate that, Jenna. I'm trying to trust you again, but it isn't easy. There are days when the memories come rushing back, and I can't help but feel that ache." "I understand," she replied softly, "but I promise I'm here for the long haul. I'll never take you for granted again. I want to work through this together." At that moment, I realized that healing is not a destination, it's a journey. We were both learning to navigate the complexities of our feelings, and though the past would always be a part of our story, it didn't have to define our future. One sunny Saturday, a few months after we'd started our counseling journey, Jenna suggested we take a trip to the beach. It felt like a small step forward, and I agreed, eager to create new memories outside the confines of our home. As we walked along the shoreline, the sound of the waves crashing against the shore felt oddly therapeutic. We found a spot to sit and soak in the sun, and as I looked at her, I felt a rush of affection. "You know," I said, taking her hand in mine, "I'm starting to see a future beyond the pain." Jenna smiled, her eyes glistening with warmth. "So am I. I want to build that future with you." With the ocean breeze enveloping us, I felt a sense of hope that hadn't been there before. I knew we still had a long way to go, but I also recognized that we were moving in the right direction. The key that had once symbolized my desperation for freedom had transformed into a reminder of the choices I had made, choices to reclaim my life and work toward healing. As I walked hand in hand with Jenna, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. I was determined to forge a path filled with honesty, love, and commitment. The journey wouldn't always be easy, but I was ready to embrace whatever came next. We might have faced the darkest moments, but together, we were learning to cultivate light in our lives once more. It was time to move forward, hand in hand, into the future.